Okay, we are continuing with this amazing series called The Art of Being Human. And tonight I want to speak about another Elul-themed midah. And that is what I want to call, I'm really not sure of how we should title the class. Really we're going to be circling around an idea called mindfulness. Okay? And however, I really don't think that mindfulness really does justice to what I want to speak about tonight. And that is that I really want to speak about what Elul is really all about in the perspective of changing our consciousness, elevating our consciousness, and which I really think is what Elul is all about. And I want to really compare and contrast between what Elul is all about and what mindfulness is all about. Okay? So one of the things that we talk about in the month of Elul is that for the Sfardim, so they already start saying Slichot, and in the Slichot, so at the beginning of the Slichot, they have the song that it starts Ben Adam Malach Adam, like guy, why are you sleeping? Like meaning that the point of Slichot is to wake up, and so Ashkenazim we also have another wake-up call, and that is that we have shofar. We have that for the beginning of Chodesh Elul, so we're blowing the shofar every day, and so everybody knows that the Rambam says that what is the meaning of shofar? What is the hint to shofar? It's Uru Yishena Mishenaschem, that the shofar is trying to remind us to wake up. Okay, so the shofar is a wake-up call, and Elul is the time that we're supposed to be waking up, and it's a reminder that if we're going to be in a state of slumber, so that is not a healthy place to be in. Okay? So this is something that Rabbi Nachman talks about. Rabbi Nachman has a story called the story of the lost princess. And in the story of the lost princess, so there's a hero of the story, his name is the Viceroy, and his mission is to rescue the princess. And so the princess gives him instructions of how to find her, and she tells him that what I want you to do is I want you to find a place and stay there for an entire year, and the entire year just yearn and just want and just be longing to be able to redeem me, to be able to rescue me, and then on the last day, so I want you to not to eat, not to drink, and not to sleep. And that's how you rescue me. That's how you'll be able to get me. So the Rabbi Nachman tells about how he tried and it didn't really work. And the last day, so he wasn't able to control himself, and he ate something and he fell asleep. And then he tries again. And she tells him this time take yourself another year, and the last day, so I'll let you eat and drink. It's hard not to eat and drink, but just don't drink wine, because wine can make you asleep, can make you fall asleep, and the most important thing is not to sleep. Okay, so now if we're talking about in terms of like getting into the Elul spirit, Rabbi Nachman is talking about the entire year going by, and at the end of a year, there's a day that you're not supposed to eat, not supposed to drink, you're not supposed to sleep. So he's giving us a picture of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the day that we don't eat, we don't drink. We do sleep on Yom Kippur, most of us, at least I do. But it says in the Mishnah that the Kohen Gadol, he actually wouldn't sleep on Yom Kippur. And so really the real way to do Yom Kippur, if it was possible, if it was practical, would be that on Yom Kippur we don't sleep. So, and then the next time he says something even crazier, which is that if you have to choose what is the most important thing, the most important thing of Yom Kippur is not to sleep. So Rabbi Nachman looks at the opposite of living life as to be sleep living. And the most important thing that we have to be careful of, that to stay away from, is that to be in a state of sleeping, to be in a state of slumber, and that to be aware of the fact that there's lots of people that are walking around us, that are our best friends, and that are co-workers, and they seem to be alive, but they're actually zombies. They're actually sleep living. They're actually living life in a very superficial way, in a very going through the motions, robotic kind of way, and that's not called living, that's called sleeping. And so the shofar is to remind us every year that, guys, wake up, stop sleeping. I know that you're going to work, you're going to school, and you're doing your stuff, and you're going through your cycles, but that's not called living. You need to actually wake up. So this idea of waking up which I think is a major theme of the month of Elul. So I think the first place I want to take this is that this is really what kavanah is. That I think that what our sages are telling us about the month of Elul is that Elul is all about living life with kavanah, okay, with intent. So in the discussion of intent, so there's a famous statement from our sages, from the Gemara. It says that tefillah b'li kavanah kiguf b'li neshama. That to pray without intention, to pray without devotion, is like a body without a soul. Okay, what's a body without a soul? A corpse. It's dead. Okay, it's there. It's like if you would put it under a microscope, like he's got a nose, he's got ears, he's got a liver, he's got a spleen, it's just that he's just dead. So you can have a person that his tefillah, everything fits, everything, like we check off all the boxes. It's just dead. Nebuch. That's tefillah b'li kavanah. So now, I think that tefillah can be a good starting point to understand what really kavanah is all about, because there's a famous teaching that there's two kinds of kavanah. We spoke about this once, and people mistake the more important one with the less important one, and they don't understand what really kavanah is all about. And that is that there's one level of kavanah which is less important, and that is to know what the words mean. So there's one state of devotion is that I know what I'm saying, as opposed to not knowing what I'm saying, just going through the words. I don't really understand Hebrew so well, and so just I'm saying words. I know that I'm saying something. I don't exactly know what I'm saying. Now, there's another kind of kavanah which Reb Chaim says is actually more crucial, and that is the kavanah of Omed Lifnei Melech. That to be aware of the fact that when I'm praying, that I'm speaking to God, that I'm speaking to the King of Kings. And that, says Reb Chaim, is actually a more critical kavanah than to know what I'm talking about. So really, that even if I don't know what I'm talking about, so for the most part I'm okay, as long as I'm aware of the fact that I'm speaking to God. So that consciousness of the fact that I'm speaking to God, so that is changing my perspective on where I am. That's altering my consciousness, elevating my consciousness. That is really what kavanah means. Kavanah is not about my thoughts. Kavanah is about my consciousness. So if we want to take tefillah as the paradigm of teaching us what kavanah is all about, so kavanah is not about my thoughts. It's about my where I am, how I'm experiencing life. Okay, that's really what kavanah is all about. So if we extend this to not just prayer, but let's start slowly. Let's extend this to other mitzvot. So there's a pasuk in Tehillim that says that kol mitzvotcha emunah. That David HaMelech says that the essence of all the mitzvot is emunah. So the commentaries explain that what does it mean? What does it mean kol mitzvotcha emunah? It means that the life source of every mitzvah is the emunah in the mitzvah. Meaning that when I'm putting on tefillah in the morning, when I am saying a bracha, so whatever the mitzvah is, so there's the mitzvah that I'm doing, that's the body of the mitzvah, and what's the soul of the mitzvah? What makes my mitzvah alive? It's the emunah that it's real. Meaning that if I do a mitzvah, but I'm doing it just because. I'm doing it just because that's what I was told I was supposed to do. That's what my parents told me I was supposed to do. That's what I'm used to doing. That's what I've been doing for the past 5 years. So that's a good body. And what gives it life? What gives it a soul? What gives it a soul is that the consciousness, the awareness, and the belief that it's real. That this is actually a way of connecting with God. That's what it means. Kol mitzvah chamuna means that the life spark of every mitzvah is the emunah in the mitzvah. That the emunah, that the belief that the mitzvah actually makes a difference, that's what makes the mitzvah alive. Okay? So the truth is that this is really not just for Jewish stuff. This is really for all of life. Really for all of life. When Rabbi Nachman is telling us that the most important thing is not to sleep, and when Elul is telling us that get up, that so it's not just about Jewish stuff, it's about life in general. That this is a wake-up call to live life awake. That everything we do, we should do it in a live way. Okay, and it's really a shame. It's like it's a sense suicide to be living life as a zombie, to be living life in a sleep living kind of consciousness that I'm not really there. I'm not really present. So then, whatever I'm doing when I'm not really present, it's as if I'm dead. I'm just a corpse. So it's a wake-up call that every single thing that we should do. So we should make sure that we're actually alive. We should make sure that we're actually conscious, that we're actually present in everything we do, in every interaction, that we're focusing, that we're appreciating. So now this is really where mindfulness comes in. So mindfulness, the word mindfulness, it comes from Zen Buddhism. That's why it's so popular today, and it's used in a clinical setting in a lot of psychology, that they use mindfulness as a way to relieve stress, and it's a way to just not be overwhelmed with life, and it's also a way to come to a better way of approaching different situations. Okay, so really what is mindfulness? So let's try to describe what mindfulness is from a secular perspective, and then I want to contrast that to a Jewish perspective on what an Elul kind of mindfulness would look like. Okay, so in psychology, when they talk about mindfulness, so they talk about being aware, observing what's going on. Okay, so when we're talking about observing what's going on, we mean something very simple. It's as easy as being aware of our body. Okay, like in a lot of, like, if you've ever been to a guided meditation, so it always starts that feel the floor under your feet, and inhale, and just feel your chest filling with air, and feel the exhale, and feel the heat inside of your body, and try to be aware of your body, and be aware of all the sounds around you and all the smells around you, and that just take it in. Okay, that's the observing. And the second step of mindfulness is to be without judgment. Okay, now what does that mean? What does it mean? What does it mean to be without judgment? So if you're, let's say you're in this guided meditation, so a judgment might come up, and the judgment would say that this is boring, or the judgment would say I'm distracted, or the judgment would say that this is hard, or the judgment would say this is stupid, and that all these different thoughts a person could have about the fact that he's being told to meditate. Okay. As a non-meditator, my thought is always that this is stupid, and so the without judgment is to not be there, to not identify with that person that's having that judgment, but rather to observe the judgment as well. Okay, so when I'm in a state of mindfulness, so instead of being caught up in my judgment, so I'm observing the fact that I'm having the judgment. Now, so how does this actually help us? So in the from a practical perspective, so in my desire not to get overwhelmed, so I'm only going to be overwhelmed as much as I identify with my reaction. But if I'm able to identify with the observer of the reaction, so then it's not going to be as overwhelming, because I'm not identifying with the part of me that's having the emotion. So the emotion can't be so overwhelming. Okay? So that's a very simple exercise. It's a very simple way of allowing ourselves to overcome our emotions, that they shouldn't stress us out, is to switch chairs from the part of us that's feeling to the part of us that's observing. Okay. Now, I think this is a very beautiful thing, because, like, I would call this taking a step back. But the truth is that, like, you're not actually taking a step back; you're actually taking a step up, because you're actually elevating yourself from the lower state in which you're feeling and you're reacting and you're identifying with your emotion and your judgment. You're taking a step up to something deeper in your psyche that is higher than that. And so it's really, from a Jewish perspective, so it's not just healing, it's not just a way of reducing stress, it's actually identifying with a more true element of who you actually are. Okay, so this is I think a very beautiful expression of how mindfulness is actually a way of, like from a Jewish perspective, it's a way of being in touch with my true self, with my neshama. Okay, meaning that it's a way of saying that I'm not that the part of me that's reacting, and therefore that reaction is not so overwhelming because it's not really me. It's just something that I'm observing. Just like if I observe you, that you're freaking out, so it's not going to freak me out because I'm just the observer. So if I'm able to just observe myself, so it's not going to freak me out. It's just like, okay, that you're angry right now. I see that you're angry right now, and I see that you're stressed right now. I see that, and just to be able to not identify with that part of us which is judging. So that is actually allowing ourselves to take a step closer to the truth, which is our truer self, which is to identify with our neshama. So now. That's all from a secular perspective. That's a secular definition of mindfulness, and I think that when Chazal say about waking up, they actually mean something which is deeper. Okay, and that is connected to one of the most famous teachings about the month of Elul, that the Elul is an acronym that stands for Ani lo dodi v'todi li, that I am to my beloved and beloved is to me, and that Elul, in a word, is about our relationship with Hashem. And Elul is about the understanding that we are in a dynamic with a higher power, and that's what Elul is all about. So the Rebbe Ruchim Lubavitz of Mir, so he writes in the beginning of his book that you want to know what is Elul all about? What is the avoda of Elul? What is the thing that we should focus about in the month of Elul? It's about the pasuk in Tehillim, Shiviti Hashem l'negdi tamid. Okay, Shiviti Hashem l'negdi tamid is pasuk in Tehillim. The David HaMelech says that I constantly imagine Hashem before me, and this is it's a famous pasuk. I don't see it here exactly, but it is. It's right. It's in a lot of shows. If you see that you have in the middle, that you have the name Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and then to the right it says Shiviti, and then it's Hashem, the Nagdi, Tamid. So this is they put this in a lot of shows. They put this in a lot of right by the Chazan is usually, but over here it's in a special place. And so it's that when you're standing before God, when you're davening, so you're reminding yourself that David HaMelech said that I imagine Hashem before me. Okay, meaning that this is certainly when you want to daven, you want to imagine that Hashem is before me, because otherwise, like, who are you talking to? You're just talking to the wall. Yeah. So really, David Melech wasn't just talking about davening. Really, David Melech was talking about constantly, that I'm constantly imagining Hashem before me. This is my way of life. I live life with the understanding that God is with me, that God is part of my experience. So what is the repercussions of Shviti Hashem and Negdi Tamid? So there's a famous statement from the Rama. That the Rama, this is his introduction to Shulchan Aruch. This is the first statement that he writes. The first thing you need to know about being a Jew is Shaviti Hashem Samid. It says he writes over there, and this is a general thing. This is the most basic thing in Judaism, and how to be a good Jew and how to be a tzaddik. And he says because you know the way that you act when you're by yourself, it's not the same way that you act when you're in front of a king. And that the way that you speak and the way that you sit, the way that you behave. So like when you're in the privacy of your own home, when nobody's around, you can do whatever you want. But when you're in front of somebody awesome, somebody that you want to impress, somebody that your life is dependent on, is in his hands. So certainly you're going to be on a whole different level of behavior. Okay? That's how he starts. That's how he starts the Shulchan Aruch. Now, to me that sounds quite stressful. That's like, guys, I think I told you once about Rabbi David Aaron. So he was talking about like different people. He has once in the class, like, when I say God, what do you think about? So he said once when I was a little girl. So this woman from the audience said, once when I was a little girl, so I misbehaved, and my mother was running after me because she wanted to beat me, and I ran away, and I locked myself in the bathroom so she wouldn't catch me, and she yelled me through the bathroom, and she said, you can escape from me, but you can't escape from God. God will still get you. God will still beat you, and so like her association of God was that God is this being that he likes to chase after sweet little girls, even when they run away into the bathroom, and he's going to be there. He's going to follow her into the bathroom until he can go get her, and that's why she has a negative association with God. So like that's the kind of vibes that like I'm getting when I hear the Rama say, God is always watching. And this is start with the Gra, that the once he was I don't remember what it was, like he was going on a wagon with somebody and like the person he was with, so he wanted to steal something, and he says, tell me if somebody's coming, tell me if somebody's going to watch, and so he starts, and he says, and the girl shouts out, stop, somebody's watching, and he says, okay, sorry, thanks, okay. And so after a couple of minutes, he says, okay, I'll try again. Tell me again. And then he goes again. And he says, stop, somebody's watching. And like, he comes back and says, okay. But are you sure? I don't see anybody. I didn't hear anything. And so he says, yeah, I'm sure. And like, this repeats itself. And he says, no, you don't understand. Hashem is watching. So it's nice. Of course, we shouldn't steal. We shouldn't steal because Hashem is always watching. But I think that what Ruchim is saying about Shvis Hashem Nesamid, it's actually something so much deeper and so much more beautiful. That it's not just like that you should constantly be freaking out because Hashem is watching. Be careful. But rather that you want to live life to the fullest. I mean, really that Shvis Hashem Nesamid is that. Once we understand that tefillah b'li kavanah keguf b'li neshama, that without kavanah, without intent, without consciousness, so it's like you're dead. So Elul is the time that we want to really, really be alive, and this is really what Elul is all about as a preparation for Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the day that Hashem is Chotech Chayim L'Kol Chai, is Achrenu L'Chayim Elachafetz B'Chayim V'Katvenu B'Sefer HaChayim. That it's the day that Hashem is giving out life to the entire universe. And so, in order to receive life, so the way to receive life, we need to make ourselves into a vessel to receive life, and that is through being really, really alive. And this is ultimately the biggest preparation for Rosh Hashanah is to be as not dead as possible, to get rid of any. It says that sleeping is a 60th of death. And when we're asleep, so that when Rabbi Nachman is saying that the worst thing is to sleep, what he's saying is that when you're sleeping, so you're a little bit dead. And when I want you to be awake through life, the reason why you should be awake is because that's truly living. That's really what life is all about. So the preparation for life is Shvita Hashem L'Negdi Tamid, meaning that just like we understand that a person that is a person that doesn't understand what love is. So they're missing out on life. There's a part of life that they aren't able to understand. The person that doesn't understand even a physical thing. A person that doesn't have a sense of smell. They're missing out on part of what it means to be life. Certainly, a person that's blind, chas v'shalom, a person that's deaf, chas v'shalom. So they're missing out on a part of what life is all about. And so the Torah is telling us that if you aren't awake to the reality of Shviti Hashem L'Negdi Tamid, if your soul is not alive to the fact that life is with a God, so then you're a little bit dead, and you're a little bit sleeping. and you're living through life, and you think that that's called life, but the truth is that that's not really life. Really, that you're not aware of the experience that you were meant to be having. And we don't have that sense of the spiritual, the consciousness of the spirituals. Then your life is not really a full life. It's really like you're half living life. You're half alive and half a corpse. That's really what Elul is all about, of being truly alive. And this is what it means. Anilo dodi v'dodi li, is that to have the consciousness of the fact that I'm living life with my God. I'm living life, the Hashem is with me in every step I take. So that's what it truly means to be alive, and that's the preparation for Rosh Hashanah, which is how we receive life. So I really think that this is a crucial piece of the puzzle. That this is the difference between like the world of mental health and Torah psychology, so to speak. That I was once speaking to somebody, to a student, that she was telling me that she was on a spiritual journey, and she started incorporating gratitude into her daily routine. And she starts her day by taking 5 minutes, and she writes in her journal, and she writes down 10 things that she's grateful for. And so this is something which is clinically proven, that if you incorporate gratitude into your day, it's going to improve your quality of life. Like it's a known fact that if you live life with gratitude, you're going to have a better life. But I asked her a simple question: to whom do you have gratitude? Like, what does that even mean? What does that mean? Thank you. Who are you thanking? To what are you thanking? So obviously, the only thing that makes sense to thank is a higher power. Is only gratitude to God. So that Anilo dodi v'dodi li means that I'm elevating my secular gratitude, which is clinically proven to improve my life, and realize what it really means. That the only reason why it actually improves my life is only because the true gratitude, by definition, only makes sense if I'm grateful to a higher power. If I'm grateful to Hashem. The same is true with meditation. With that in a meditative state. So meditation is also a very, very powerful psychological tool. The person, it's good for a person. You improve your emotional health. You even improve your brain. It's a healthy thing. It's a healthy thing to meditate. And so meditating is to control your thoughts. Right? To be able to have time that I'm not just on autopilot. I'm not just allowing my thoughts to just roam freely. I'm controlling my thoughts. That's a definition. If you look up, you Google what does meditation actually mean? That's what meditation actually means. That to control my thoughts. So now, what's a Jewish meditation? A Jewish meditation is a prayer meditation. Okay, Rabbi Nachman talks about hitbodedut. That hitbodedut is actually a prayer meditation, meaning that it's not just that I'm controlling my thoughts, but I'm directing my controlled thoughts to God. Okay, meaning that it's sweet. It could be that it has mental health value to just control my thoughts without having a God. But if I'm able to control my thoughts and direct my controlled thoughts to God, so that's going to heal me in a way different dimension. It's going to heal me. It's going to improve my life in a much greater way, because I'm suddenly not just full of myself. There's another partner here. There's another player here that's going to help improve the situation. Meaning, I'm not stuck with when I'm controlling my thoughts. So then it's all up to me. So I'm limited. But what's beautiful about hitbodedut is that when I'm directing it to Hashem, so it gives direction to my thoughts. That because I'm directing my thoughts to this higher power, so it doesn't allow. There's a natural censorship from for what kinds of things I'm going to be thinking. What kinds of I can't think nonsense. I don't. It doesn't make sense when you're talking to somebody intelligent. So then when you start thinking something stupid, so then you automatically just edit that. You direct your thoughts to something more productive, something that you actually want to stand behind. So when you're standing before God, so it allows yourself to become your better self and to control your thoughts in the way that you actually want to be thinking. Right? So that's when it comes to meditation, and the same is true when it comes to mindfulness. Mindfulness is, if you think about it, is sort of the opposite of meditation. Meditation is the having controlled thoughts. So mindfulness, we said, is being the observer, no longer identifying with my thoughts, but rather taking a step back / take a step up to be the one who's observing those thoughts. So we had the secular kind of mindfulness, which is like I'm just taking a step back, and I'm just observing. And then you have a Jewish meditation, a Jewish mindfulness. A Jewish mindfulness is that I'm not just being observing, but rather I'm allowing myself to become negated to Hashem. Okay, I'm realizing that the reason why I am not identifying with my thoughts is because everything is truly happening to me. Everything is actually being channeled through me. And I'm actually really reaching a state called bitul, reaching a state called negation, that I'm actually one with the universe, and I'm allowing Hashem to speak through myself, which is really a very, very high level. This is something that in a sense, when we are truly in touch with our intuition, so we are allowing ourselves to tap into the fact that God is speaking through us, right? So if we're talking about that, what is the mindfulness? What is the Shiviti Hashem L'Negdi Tamid of Elul? So I would start from the more simple and then go to the more advanced. That the most simple mindfulness of the month of Elul, of to be alive, to be aware of a spiritual world, is first of all to note the fact that spirituality is real. Okay, and that to be aware of the fact that every time I do something, it's affecting the spiritual world. Every time that just whatever's happening, that every mitzvah I do makes a difference, that my soul is affected by everything I do. Number two is to understand that I'm in a relationship with Hashem. Like to take this, that it's not just to be aware of the fact that there's a world of spirituality, but rather to understand that I'm constantly living with Hashem. And this is an amazing feeling. This is as much as there's a jump between living a secular consciousness and being aware suddenly being aware that, like, you can imagine like a person that suddenly realized that there's a spiritual world, or a person that suddenly realized that there's a God. It's like the difference between a person that was blind that suddenly was able to see, or a person that was colorblind and suddenly was able to see colors. That doesn't even come close to the difference between a person that was experiencing life without God and suddenly became aware of the fact that there's actually so much more that's going on. That he becomes aware that like there's so much more. Every action, every interaction, every thought, that there's so much going on that I wasn't aware of before. So too, the jump between that consciousness and the consciousness of the fact that I'm constantly living with Hashem, of the consciousness that everything I do is affecting my relationship with Hashem. To be aware of the fact that I'm never alone. I'm constantly cared for. I'm constantly being accompanied through every interaction, everything that happens to me, every struggle, everything. That the fact to be aware of the fact that I'm constantly living with Hashem, and I'm in this constant relationship. So that just elevates our consciousness to a whole different place. That's the second level. That's the second level of Shiviti Hashem L'Negdi Tamid. And the third level of Shiviti Hashem L'Negdi Tamid is what we spoke about before, and that is bitul, and that is negation. And that is when I reach the level that I understand that Hashem is speaking through me, that when I understand the fact that I am one with the universe. And this is something that Rabbi Nachman talks about in Sichos Savan. We gave a class about this many months ago, and it's actually it's noteworthy that he preceded AA about this concept, that in AA they have this idea to give over all of my actions unto Hashem. And Rabbi Nachman literally talks about this, that the best way to live life is to give over, limsor et kol pe'ulotav v'kol machshavotav, just to give over all of my actions to Hashem and say, Hashem, I want that, just control me, just whatever I do, just you act through me. And to reach this state that I'm allowing Hashem to function through me, to be in touch with my intuition, to such a degree that I'm no longer identifying with my emotions. I'm no longer identifying with my reactions. I'm so beyond that. I'm just allowing myself, allowing Hashem to act and run my life, to allow Him to speak through me, to act through me. So this is the highest level. This is the state of bitul of Shiviti Hashem Lenegdi Tamid is being aware of the fact that actually Einod Milvado, that my entire existence is actually a bluff. The thought that I can have my own thoughts it's actually a taking away from Hashem's truest presence. This is a harder place to stay. I don't think it's so practical to be in this state constantly. I think that when a person has I think in AA they're talking about when a person has a real struggle. When a person has a real struggle, that's the time. That's the time to say, okay, Hashem, I can't do this. You work something out. I'm going to let go, and it's really hard to let go. But that level of becoming one with the universe, and so that is a higher level of consciousness, and that is truly being alive. That is truly being awake, and this is really what I think that the Jewish mindfulness is not just to be aware of, not just to be to notice how hot my coffee is, and it's sweet to notice how hot your coffee is, but really that I think all of that is just a skeleton, literally, of the true mindfulness, and that is to be an observer of my own life, because I realize that I'm actually not running my life. I'm allowing Hashem to run my life for me. Okay, so I think this is really, Elul is about mindfulness on steroids. It's about being an observer. It's about taking a step up to become one with a higher self, and that higher self is Einod Milvado. That higher self is that really Hashem is really controlling everything, and that's how I escape my ego. That is how I escape all the stress of life. That's because when I realize that really Hashem is running the world, so that everything is easier. Everything is easier, and everything is holier, and I no longer have to make mistakes because of all of my considerations, because Hashem is taking me to the place that I need. So I bless us all that we should be able to really be mindful in the most beautiful way. We should be able to be alive. We should be able to really get rid of all of the sleepiness, all of the sleepiness of that is so easy to have in Elul, and to be very, very alive, and to be very, very aware of how much our souls is part of our existence, and to be aware of how much the world of spirituality is part of our experience of life, and to be aware of the fact that Hashem is with us constantly, and to be aware of the fact that Hashem is constantly bringing us to exactly where we need to get. B'ezrat Hashem.